Okay, so deer season.
Mm.
It's almost here, right?
That time of year again, the anticipation is huge.
And if you're, well, anything like us, you're probably deep into preparation.
Oh, right.
Spending money on maybe some new gear, hours out at the range, sighting things in.
Yep, dialing it all in.
Maybe weeks even, glued to
Yeah.
satellite maps, trying to pattern that one big buck. You feel like you're doing everything right, setting yourself up.
Right, and that prep, it's intense, it's crucial, but what our sources are really pointing to today is that, that soul-crushing feeling when it all goes wrong because of other people.
Oh, yeah.
You can have the best scope, the most detailed scouting notes, but if you get out there opening day and bang, gunshots 50 yards away, or you find out 4 other guys got dropped off right near your spot the night before.
All that prep.
All that meticulous work just kind of evaporates. The problem isn't your gear or your skill even, it's the pressure. Too many people.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that. We've been looking at research, and it seems to argue pretty strongly that maybe success today isn't just about shaving ounces off your pack or getting that extra 1% accuracy. It suggests hunters really need to invest their resources, their time, their money, their planning into the #1 thing where they actually hunt, the location itself.
That's exactly the mission for this deep dive. The sources are showing how hunters are actively trying to, well, beat the crowds. They're getting strategic, prioritizing their access strategy, maybe above almost everything else.
Because if you put in all that effort,
You need to make sure it counts, right? That it's not just undermined by overcrowding the second the season opens. And we're seeing this problem get formalized, actually, into a kind of commercial solution.
Right. So let's talk history for a second. If you wanted good, reliable access, away from the public land crowds, there was that old way, wasn't there? The traditional, tried-and-true method.
The door-knocking approach.
Exactly. Driving around, spotting a nice farm, knocking on the door, hat in hand, hoping for permission.
And look, sometimes that worked. It definitely did occasionally. But the sources we looked at, they pretty much all called that method not a very reliable way to gain access to a good hunting ground.
Unreliable. Okay.
Yeah. It's all based on personal favor, knowing someone, catching the landowner on a good day. And for today's hunter who might be busy, maybe traveling a bit to hunt for just a few days, leaving your whole trip up to that kind of chance, it's not a solid plan.
Doesn't sound like a sustainable model, no.
Yeah.
So if that handshake deal is maybe fading out a bit, what's taking its place? The sources seem to point to a really big shift, like an industrialization of access.
It's fascinating, honestly. We found this article from back in 2021, and even then it was saying these hunting lease services were already on the rise.
Are we on the rise then? Wow.
Yeah, and that they were basically poised to take over the industry. And what they sell, fundamentally, is reliability. They take it from being this uncertain personal favor thing to a dependable transactional solution with, professionals managing it.
And the payoff for the hunter, psychologically, must be huge. Suddenly you're not constantly listening for
the sounds of gunshots 50 yards away on opening day.
Exactly. You're essentially buying peace of mind. You're buying exclusivity.
Okay, so how does it work? The mechanism. It's not just a verbal, okay, right?
No, not at all. It's much more formal. You're typically entering into a lease agreement, often for a full year. You're purchasing the access rights directly from the landowner.
Gotcha.
But the key part is that this whole deal is managed by a specialized company, a leasing company. They act as this crucial middleman. They handle the boundaries, the liability stuff, and most importantly, they ensure that access is exclusive to you or your group.
And Base Camp Leasing, BCL, that name kept coming up in the research as a big example.
Yeah, they were mentioned quite a bit.
So this isn't just like a local guy connecting a few people. Let's dig into the scale of what these companies offer.
Right, the scale tells you a lot about how mainstream this has become. The sources say leases are available basically all over the country, so it's not some niche regional thing. Nationwide.
And the property sizes, they vary wildly. You can find small parcels, maybe just 10 acres, something manageable for 1 or 2 people, or you can find leases that are hundreds, even thousands of acres.
So adaptable, they cater to different needs, different group sizes, presumably different budgets too.
Exactly. It shows the model is flexible.
Okay, that sounds great for getting that exclusive feel, that control. But let's talk about the elephant in the room. Money. Leasing land sounds expensive. Like really expensive. Do the sources explain how an average hunter or a group of average hunters actually swings this?
They do, and it really boils down to group economics. That's the key mechanism that makes it affordable, and financially responsible for a lot of people.
Grouped economics, okay.
Think about it like this, using the example from the sources. Maybe you and, say, 10 buddies want your own personal hunting haven. A decent-sized lease can often accommodate that many hunters over the course of a season.
Okay, so instead of one person footing a, I don't know, $5,000 bill for the whole lease,
Right.
that cost gets split 10 ways.
Yeah.
So maybe it comes down to $500 per person.
Exactly that. $500, maybe $1,000, depending on the property and location, for a whole season of exclusive access. Now, compare that cost per person.
To what? Like a guided hunt?
Yeah, compare it to the price of a fancy, maybe 3-day guided hunt somewhere. Suddenly, the value looks enormous, right? You're not just buying a weekend trip. You're buying the ability to scout whenever you want, set your own stands, maybe even do some habitat work, manage the herd, and hunt the entire season.
A whole season.
The sources really suggest this cost-splitting approach turns leasing from something maybe only for the wealthy into something very accessible for just a regular group of hunting friends.
That really does change the dynamic. It
Yeah.
becomes about pooling resources, community planning almost, not just individual wealth.
Definitely.
Now, you mentioned managing the herd, doing habitat work. Does that group lease structure also mean like shared responsibility for the place?
Often, yeah, and that's actually another big plus. Beyond just splitting the lease fee, a well-run group lease means those 10 friends are also sharing the work, putting out trail cams, maybe planting small food plots, keeping an eye on things. It kind of turns the hunting group into a temporary land management co-op. And that's the real difference, you know. It's not just having access, it's about having some control over the quality of your hunting experience.
Okay, that makes sense. We've talked a lot about the hunter side, the benefits there, but we need to look at the other side of this deal, the landowner. If access is being bought and sold on this scale, they must be getting something pretty substantial out of it too. Why do this formal leasing thing instead of just letting the neighbor hunt for free like maybe they used to?
That's a critical point, looking at the motivation on the other side of the fence. And the sources point to two main, really complementary reasons why landowners are jumping into this formal leasing market.
Okay, 2 reasons. What's number 1?
Number one is pretty obvious. Money. It offers them an additional income stream, often a passive one, from land they might not be using for much else. Maybe it's timberland, maybe it's just rough acreage not suitable for farming.
Right, so monetizing an underused asset makes sense. But what was the second reason? You said property security. That seems interesting.
It's actually crucial, according to the sources. Think about it. Having responsible, authorized hunters paying for access on your property, that acts as a huge deterrent.
The deterrent to what?
To things like theft, illegal dumping, trespassing, and especially poaching. A hunter or a group paying potentially thousands of dollars for exclusive rights. They have a very strong vested interest in making sure nobody else is sneaking onto that property.
So they become like unpaid security guards?
Kind of, yeah. The sources basically imply this setup gives the landowner frequent, reliable eyes and ears on the ground, without them having to constantly patrol it themselves. It's an effective security patrol, and it's essentially paid for by the hunters leasing the land.
Okay, that's a really smart synergy. The landowner gets cash and oversight. But, okay, if this market is growing so fast and there are potentially thousands of leases out there, how does a hunter know they're getting quality? We saw that ethos. Quality over quantity reigns supreme. How do you ensure you're not just leasing a dud property?
That's where the reputation and the practices of the leasing company itself become really important. The established players like BCL, which we mentioned, they lean heavily on their experience. BCL, for instance, has been doing this for over 20 years.
20 years, okay. That's longevity.
That alone signals some reliability in a service business. But here's where the sources highlighted a really specific and I think useful quality control mechanism, how they staff their operations.
How so?
They apparently hire almost exclusively hunters to be their agents, the people actually dealing with the properties and the clients.
Wait, really? Only hunters?
Yeah.
Not just like standard real estate agents who know contracts but might not know a deer trail from a hiking path.
Exactly. The materials stress that point. There is no one on the team looking for a quick buck. These agents are supposed to be experienced hunters themselves, passionate about it. And that expertise is called crucial for the buyer.
Why crucial?
Because a hunter agent presumably knows what makes a good hunting property. They can match a buyer to the right lease, not just any available lease.
Okay, give me an example. How does that hunter agent knowledge actually help me, the hunter looking for a lease?
Yeah.
What do they see that maybe a regular agent wouldn't?
Well, a hunter agent understands habitat, right? They can evaluate a property based on its actual potential to hold deer,
Right.
not just its acreage on a map.
Hmm.
They know the difference between, say, 100 acres of wide open pasture versus 100 acres that has good bedding cover, different kinds of food sources, maybe some thermal cover for bad weather. They know to ask about water sources, look at access points to minimize disturbance getting in and out, maybe even know something about the local deer density or buck age structure.
Details that directly impact your hunt.
Exactly. Details that could mean the difference between a great season and leasing a piece of ground that looks good online but is like biologically barren for deer.
So they're using their field knowledge as a quality filter for the buyer, which makes sense because that quality and reliability is what you're paying the premium for in the first place.
Precisely. Quality access, reliably secured.
And the scale we talked about suggests this isn't just a theory, it's working.
It seems very robust, yeah. The sources mentioned their extensive pool of buyers and the fact that they consistently maintain thousands of leases in use every year. That kind of volume, plus constantly updated listings, it confirms the system is meeting a real demand. It directly addresses that core need the listener might have, finding quality managed hunting access that's actually available and dependable.
So this whole deep dive seems to circle back to that central idea we started with. That old way of getting access, the handshake deal, is really fading.
Seems to be, yeah.
And it's being replaced by something much more formalized, much larger scale. A system where hunting access is treated like a negotiated commercial asset.
And it looks like that shift is only speeding up. If you check out some of the more recent reports, we saw blog headlines from just August 2025 saying things like, "Demand for hunting leases on the rise." The trend seems pretty clear.
So the success of the modern hunter, it really relies less and less on having the absolute newest gadget or the fanciest camo pattern.
And overwhelmingly more on smart strategic land access. Prioritizing that location strategy seems to be paramount now.
So the big takeaway for you listening right now is probably that where you invest your hunting resources, your time, your effort, your money, might need rethinking. It's shifting away from just gear maybe and much more towards securing where you hunt. That seems to be the biggest factor determining success these days.
And if we connect this back one last time, the sources highlighted that landowners get that additional income stream and property security. We've seen how this demand helped create these big leasing companies. So the final thought to leave you with is this. Consider how this growing, formalized demand for hunting leases might keep changing things in rural areas.
Changing how?
Well, is huntable land that maybe used to be just seen as farmland or timber or just outdoors, is it increasingly becoming a formally recognized commercial asset? Could this drive up the baseline cost of rural land ownership itself across the board, turning access into a more structured, maybe more expensive commodity? That's something interesting for you to maybe mull over or explore on your own.